your job when making a sale is to give people the information they need to confidently choose you over all of the other options that are out there. So it's not about telling them this is the best. It's about helping them arrive at that conclusion for themselves.
All right. Welcome back to the High Voltage Business Builders Podcast. Everybody, as always, like, share, comment, and engage. I don't care if you leave bad comments or engagement on the social media channels. It just helps. Do some conflict marketing. Tell us you hate us. We don't mind. Just give some love to our guest that's coming up and help us beat big tech, as always, to get the message out. We're going to be talking about listing optimization, Amazon, and all things relative to creating better CTRs, better conversions, and, of course, making more money on Amazon and beyond. And so I have with me here Emma from Marketing by Emma. Welcome to the call.
Thank you, Neil. I'm excited to be here and dig into things with you today.
Yeah. So brand identity and customer avatars are something that I talk about a lot. In your own language, can you unpack that for us as we get off the ground here? And what does that mean to you?
Absolutely. So really our job is being able to connect with humans and help them understand why our solution is the best fit for their needs. And so in order to do that, we need to know who it is that we're selling to. And we also need to know who we are as a business. So even though there are multiple people that you're selling to, a customer avatar is a invaluable tool that if you've never created, you should. And if you created one 5 years ago, then it's high time for an update. And it's essentially a really detailed profile of who your target customer is. Now, you might have a few of those if you sell to a few different target groups, but that allows you to go from generally speaking to an amorphous group of 30-year-olds who are interested in tech to a much more specific segment of people, perhaps highly educated. They have at least 2 degrees. They live on the West Coast. Their favorite show is Silicon Valley on HBO. And the more granular you start to get, the more detailed and targeted you can be with the language that you use, with the references that you make, with how you engage around the problem and the solution, the types of visuals that you're using, all of those really with the end goal of being able to more strongly resonate with your target customer. And so that same thing that you're doing with the customer avatar, that clear profile, you also want to be then doing with your own business. And one of my favorite exercises to have people do is to imagine if their business were a person. So to think about how would that business operate if they were in the world, and fill in all those details. So what kind of clothes would they wear? What would be their favorite TV shows and influencers and the things that they're interested in? Their favorite type of cookie, go as wild as you can be. But all of those details, what they start to do, just like with what you get with the customer avatar, is they start to bring in more specificity, which is not only more powerful for really creating a stronger connection and conversation with your customers, but it's also a really fantastic tool when you have a team that you're working with, be those contractors or internal employees, and making sure that everybody understands exactly how your business should be represented. Because if you just say, we have a sense of humor, that could manifest in a lot of different ways. But when you give a very specific kind of sense of humor, then people really understand how to interpret that, how to embody that, and then how to really use that to do whatever job it is, whatever function they have within the company.
Yeah, very good. Very good. And if someone's new and they're just trying to discover that as part of a process, maybe thinking about getting started with Amazon or some marketing channel of some kind, what would you give them, like 2 or 3 tips to just start that process rolling, like from the ground up?
Yeah. So one of my favorite little things that I encourage everybody to do, but especially it can be really hard if you're just getting started because you're like, well, I don't have customers, so how can I know who they are? And that's where social media can be a really fantastic tool, because you're able to be a fly on the wall in observing how your potential customers are not only interacting around products like yours, but more generally in the category, and then even more broadly beyond that into their other overlapping interests and whatnot. And so if you are wanting to find those, you might find them around a product type. You could find those around a type of interest. You have everything from Reddit groups and Facebook groups to TikTok categories and hashtags. And so some of that will also be starting to think about who you imagine you think your target customers will be, and then where would they also be spending time online. So you should definitely be integrating that into, because it's not only to start to get a sense of who those customers are, but it takes them out of this very impersonal space of details and puts a face to it and helps you really start to see who are these humans in a way that is just so important if you want to be doing a good job of this.
Yeah.
Also, oh, sorry, did you have a question?
No, yeah, I'm agreeing. You're on.
And generative AI chat tools like a ChatGPT or Claude, or if you have another one that's your favorite, have at it. But those can be a great way where if you're trying to just get a starter profile, you can feed in those details, ask the chat AI to build out a customer avatar for you, and then you have a starting place that you can then work on refining. You could even take some of your competitors' products and give those to the AI and ask the AI to build out a profile based on what they're seeing would be the target customer. Of course, always taking that with a grain of salt.
Well,
AI
just kind of looking it over objectively is always important, but I do like that feature where you can now upload an image into the system, especially on the 4.0 version of ChatGPT, and ask it to just analyze and tell you what the picture is,
Yes.
and then get it to explain more about the picture and who might like that product. And it's actually pretty easy to just ask it questions and kind of understand what's going on. What we get down to is what we call a circle of confidence, and that is something you might know, someone you might know, something you have a familiarity with in a background or application or job or business you're already doing. And just look for product ideas that reside right in that customer avatar or fit a customer base that you can explain. Somebody might know, my Aunt Marcy loves to cook and she loves to do these things and she loves KitchenAid and she loves to cook cakes the most of anything. And you just kind of flow through a conversation in your head of building that out. How does that translate into the written word then? If you're going to use some of that information and get down to writing, say, a listing, a copy, a product based on Etsy or Shopify or Amazon or somewhere else?
I actually take that information and I almost treat it like I'm an actor preparing for a role. So
Okay.
I want to have a really clear understanding of who my customers are. And this is also really valuable because your customers may not always be people that you naturally relate to. And so sometimes it can be difficult where there's this gap between your customers and you wanting to sell them something and figuring out how to do that in a way that's going to connect with your customers doesn't always come naturally. But if you can really dig in, get deeper around those human emotions, those are
Yeah.
where we share those commonalities so that even if there are different things that trigger those emotions in us, that gives us an opportunity to really connect on a deeper, more human level. And so thinking about, and sort of what you were talking about, I believe you called it the circle of confidence, but really trying to picture and imagine who that customer is that you're trying to sell to. And so rather than just staring at the blank screen, imagine as if you were face to face with them and you were trying to communicate to them about your product and help them understand why this is such a good fit for them. And putting it through that frame is going to help you do a better job at what you do naturally, probably decently, but is sometimes difficult to translate into the written
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, it's very smart. I get that. And I get the idea of that role playing and kind of trying to put yourself into that. I mean, literally, I was just watching my girls do that for 6 months as they got ready to do their Anne of Green Gables production last weekend. They did a show on Friday and then two on Saturday, and they kind of embodied the characters and kind of started living them until they had got all their lines done and got everything done correctly. And it was a lot of fun to watch them kind of live those characters out on stage. And they had such a fun time of doing that. But they did get into the mind and the idea and the talk and the language and the things of it. And I think it's kind of like you said, a role playing to kind of speak to that person and who they are and then try to identify it. Walk another mile in someone else's heels, right? So the end result is just trying to define what it is they're really willing to buy at the end of the day and how easy it is to sell. If you speak to a mom who's like sleep deprived has 2 kids hanging on her. She's thinking about the safety of her children. She doesn't want them to choke on food. It's a particular product type or a shoe or a clothing type, or do I wear them in cotton or do they wear the polyester to bed? Or do you just get into the mind of them and start to speak to them? They're going to start nodding their heads when they agree that you're on target. And yeah,
Exactly. And I think that's what people can sometimes forget is that because it's a written word and it's static there on the page, they forget that it is actually a dialogue and a conversation.
it
And
is.
even though it's not happening in real time
Yeah,
between
you're
you and
right.
your customers, good copy does that effectively, where in their minds, they are feeling seen. They're saying, yes, okay, absolutely. And you speak to another point of this mother, but it could be anybody in a different set of circumstances where they're not just focusing on choosing this product. They're managing so many other things going on simultaneously. And
Right.
so that's where it also is important that sometimes people assume, like, oh, this is very obvious and we don't need to actually include this. But sometimes those really obvious details are super important to reinforce and reiterate in your copy, because if it's not, the absence of that information can actually make somebody go, well, wait, is this then what I think it is? Or they're just so distracted by so many other things and so caught up in their lives
Yeah.
that having that piece of information reinforced gives them the reassurance that they need of, okay, yes, this is that product. I feel good about this choice. I don't have any lingering questions or confusion. This is the one that I want.
Yeah, smart. And one of the things we love to do, because you can borrow language, don't steal and don't copyright and don't plagiarize, but you can go to Amazon and look at the top 100 for products that are in categories you're starting to build a confidence around, whether it's home or kitchen or outdoor, and thinking, okay, I might want to sell to this particular avatar. Go look at the top 100, look at the top 10, and just pull their copy down and take a look at it. It should be, and the reason why it's there is it's persuasive copy that informs and persuades, doesn't necessarily sell. Is so many people try to write copy to sell, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. And ultimately, your job when making a sale is to give people the information they need to confidently choose you over all of the other options that are out there. So it's not about telling them this is the best. It's about helping them arrive at that conclusion for themselves, because you're giving them the information they need to check all of their boxes to say this aligns with the criteria that I have in my mind. And that also goes back to the customer avatar and why that's so important, because not all customers care about the same thing. So a mother that's concerned about choking hazards might have that be a one of the little criteria that she has for a whole variety of products. Whereas if you're a single man living by yourself, that couldn't be further from your mind. And so that's where understanding the full person, not just within the limited confines of the product and the category, can be really
Yeah.
valuable and
Unless
helpful.
you're choking by yourself, and then you would have hoped that you had the children's spoon, so you wouldn't. Like, I should have bought
You're
the children's spoon.
hopefully people, once you reach adulthood, you're not just putting random small items into your mouth.
Well, you know what? In today's world, I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. Anything's possible with people
That's a
today.
good point.
Where did you get all this knowledge from and this experience?
That I think I have kind of accumulated it from a variety of different experiences in my life. So I have always been a reader and a writer. And I think that both of those, even with not within the context of marketing, teach you so much about humans and how the written word works and how different people's minds work. And so I think that's what really laid the foundations and one of the ways that I continue to hone and refine this skill. I've also spent a lot of time in other countries. And I think that when you're needing to communicate with people who have a different set of cultural expectations and understanding, as well as language, you learn how to communicate in a very different way than what you need to if you're just talking with a very small group of people who all have the same background as you. And so those are the two, I would say, unexpected things that have molded this. And then the last piece being that when I fell into marketing in my early 20s or late teens, I started to really get interested in the psychology behind things. And I would say my biggest motivator in life is that I'm very curious. And so I've just fed that curiosity and taught myself along the way. And I'm always looking at it, advertisements and commercials and things through that critical eye of how could I do this better? Why do I think this isn't good? Why do I think that this is amazing? And hold this up as an example of great. And so, yeah, a lot of different avenues of my life.
Where do you see us going this year in terms of optimizations, business, listing, copy, AI's involvement, and all of that stuff? Where do you see that falling out?
So, what I'm seeing is that AI has really leveled the playing field, and businesses that prior to this surge of easy to create, cheap content, they had the advantage purely by having good quality. And so that differentiation, that strategic advantage has essentially been eliminated. And as a result, one of the main things that you have to be able to differentiate yourself, if we're now saying, okay, everybody has decently written content at their disposal, is actually going deeper into what we spoke about at the beginning of this conversation, which is to be really clear about building out a brand identity and differentiating through that. Because if you're not able to differentiate on the product and you're not able to differentiate just because you're high quality, then really your only tool left to you is to build out a very clear brand that is communicating a certain set of values and ideals and is going to resonate with a certain group of people. And so that's really what I see as being one of the big opportunities left for businesses that are looking to create that competitive edge, establish that strategic differentiation so that they're not just having to fall into being competitive on price or having to throw even more money and get super aggressive with their advertising. So that's my forecast. Of course, all of these things change so quickly, but I think that one of the things I actually just saw this yesterday is Neil Patel. For those who don't know him, he's a big name in the SEO space. And he did a really interesting thing where he took an article that was written by a human, and at the top of it, he put that it was generated by AI. And it had significantly fewer readers than the same article without that disclaimer, which is an indication that there's something that people don't like about the idea of engaging with fully AI generated content. And I think the backlash is that we're looking for opportunities for more human connection when we are confronted by all of this AI
overwhelming tech.
Yes.
Yeah. And when people get text messages from me, many times they're like, "Are you a bot?" I'm like, "No, I'm actually text messaging you. It's really me." "Oh, well, that's so nice that you're actually text messaging." The human factor cannot be understated in any marketing, connectivity, or collateral. And I have seen similar types of things, not the one that Neil put out, but I've seen similar things in the audio space of videos being created online where people can kind of see the AI, but AI is getting so smart and so technical and so savvy so fast that some people are not even recognizing the AI voices are not human.
Yeah.
Because it's getting so sophisticated because there's that push to go that direction. And I'm still big on just having the human interaction myself. While I love tech and I love some of it, I'm afraid for some of the things it means in the business world for a lot of people who simply just aren't going to be able to keep up with the amount of innovation and challenges and tech that's involved in taking over the systems. We use time compression methods like we always have in business to take systems and processes and kind of optimize them down, and business optimization is a big component of that. But taking 2 to 3 day processes to build an Amazon listing is now 2 to 3 hours. I mean, it's just changed so dramatically in how you can pump out copy and create opportunity. And that most people don't understand. That's can be written by AI on Amazon and they don't even know the difference. Although there's AI components showing up on Amazon now, of course, and very incorrectly
Right.
naming things and writing stuff. And it's like, well, if you don't change this in 14 days, that just popped up, then we're going to automatically make the change for you. So be aware if you haven't.
I've heard some nightmare stories about Amazon.
They're doing some crazy
making changes to people's listings with the AI suggestions that are just so far off
the wall wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and part of it, what they're doing is just to get the details for anybody who's listening, is they're reading the images, and then they're using basically, like I said, the image to determine what the product is, and then writing summary descriptions about some of that stuff, and then updating the listing and telling you have 14 days to approve or deny the changes to the listing. And people are missing that window because they're not paying attention. So then the
Yeah.
changes are being made, then they see the problem and they're like, oh crap, I can't get it back. So guys, be aware of that changes that are occurring, and obviously make sure that your images can be read by AI correctly. Wink, wink. So just some fascinating things going on. So what is it that you're doing right now that others should know about you?
About me, just as a whole.
Oh, sure. Whatever you want to say.
Well, so the thing that I'm most excited about right now is I've recently started creating a lot of content on YouTube about not just Amazon, but really about a lot of the things that we were talking about today. So about the different concepts in marketing psychology and branding. And so looking at things from all of the different levels. So getting very granular and technical, but then also looking big picture so that you understand how things are fitting together and so that you have a really clear strategy and vision for where you're going. Because a lot of times what I see is people are piecemealing things. And so it's like, okay, well, I'll just create my images for this, but they're not really thinking about what that means in terms of the broader impact strategically. And if your images, they shouldn't be created in a vacuum. Your images should be created with a very strong understanding of who your customers are, because you want to feature people like them in your photos.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that your photos are in line with the values that you're talking about. And so all of these things are going to be influencing all of the different choices that you're making. So that's where I'm spending a lot of my time and having a lot of fun, and also just learning a lot of new skills personally. There's a lot that goes
There's a
in.
lot to learn.
Yes.
No
So if
doubt.
people are interested in checking that out, my
Okay.
channel is Marketing by Emma. And
Links will be in the show notes, or go to Marketing by Emma on YouTube and check that out.
yeah. And I mean,
Anything else?
no.
Okay. So is there something that I didn't ask you that you'd like me to cover real quick with you? Some question I didn't bring up just yet that you wanted to cover?
I guess if you feel like it would be valuable, like we could talk about some of the different tools within Amazon, like Premium A Plus content, brand story, branded storefront, but we don't have to if you have already.
No, let's
covered
unpack it for a second, because that is definitely an output of the content conversation we just had as to where it actually applies. So maybe break that down for us a little bit.
Cool. So when we're talking about branding and positioning and copy and all of these things, we have a lot of different tools at our disposal within specifically Amazon that we can use. And some of the areas where I'm seeing a lot of opportunity, but surprisingly still a lot of people that are not adopting it, are the brand story, the Premium A Plus content, and the storefront. And all of these are really giving you the ability to present your product and your brand in a way that's more aligned with how you would do it on your own website. And so it's not only giving you an opportunity to communicate that important information, but all of them also have a lot of space for being able to cross-sell and upsell other items in your catalog. So they're valuable tools on multiple levels, both in terms of really positioning your brand as the one to choose and giving people that extra information, just visually taking up more real estate on the page, but then also introducing people to some of those other items that they may want to get in conjunction with yours, or instead of, if there's perhaps one that would be a better fit for them. So there's just some really great opportunities there for businesses. And it shocks me the amount of time that I look at a listing and obviously creating the content isn't free, but though they are free tools for you, why wouldn't you want to take up more space on the page and give customers more reasons why your products are a great fit?
You should absolutely be doing that. I just think some of them haven't quite got the education. Maybe they're moving too fast. Who knows what? But they should definitely be including A plus content on all of their listings. No doubt about it.
Agreed.
Wonderful. Is there someone that in our network, or someone maybe in time and space, that you would love to sit down and have 15 minutes to chat with? Maybe it's in my connection placed my 6 degrees of separation, if you will, the Kevin Bacon. We could tag them in here. You want to sit down and have a conversation with them? Anybody you can think of?
I mean, probably these are the kinds of questions that I feel like a deer in headlights, where suddenly I'm like, who are people? I don't know
I
anybody.
know we've had Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, we had Andre 3000, we've had historical figures. There's anybody that you just on your mind that you would want to sit down and have 15 minutes with?
15-minute conversation.
Yeah. Maybe Steve Jobs, the marketing genius of our time.
I don't know. There was something about him that seems so unlikable that I feel like
I've heard that before. Yep, for sure.
Oh, I am so geeking out on the Liquid Death brand right now. I just think that what they're doing is so cool and innovative when it comes to marketing and branding, that maybe one of their co-founders or their CMO or someone that's
someone in that, and I don't know who they are personally, but someone in my network might. And guys, you do your thing in the comments below, tag them, make a conversation. Maybe Emma can have a conversation with them. We don't know until you try. So guys, let's see if we can maybe get her connected with somebody.
Liquid Death is a water company, and they have really out there very provocative marketing.
Yes,
that's
they
either going to make you very upset, or you'll just be in awe of their creativity. And
it is something else, because we jokingly talk about things people are willing to buy and not willing to buy, and buying additional versions of water was always kind of when the first one came out from Evian, and now water is just kind of that normal thing. And then I see the movie The Lorax with my kids, and they're like trying to sell canned air, and I'm like, well, that's never going to go over. And then I see that they sell canned air now, so it's like, okay, anything's possible with some good copy, right?
It's true.
Emma, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today.
Thank you, Neil. This was a lot of fun.